Hey there, everybody. Hope you are doing well. Ryan in Sacktown, only doing single duty today, trying to preserve that voice for the main show. Shouldn't call that. His show's a main show, too. But the primetime show, right at 8 o'clock. Right, buddy? Isn't that what your strategy was today?
That's right. I let all the weakness leave my body earlier today. We're ready to roll. Let's go, Napes. Open Forum Wednesday.
Yeah, you got the link right there on your chat page. You also have the QR code. Cody chiming in. Malik Neighbors stud. We'll find out. They haven't played any games yet. He looks pretty good though, but we'll see. You got to have a quarterback that can throw him the ball, and you have to have a offensive line that can protect the quarterback to give him time to throw the ball. So I'll believe it when I see it.
Well, they've tried their best to shore up the offensive line, made a couple big free agent
Yep.
signings. So
Yep.
interested to see. Pressure's on Daniel Jones this year.
All right, I did a rant today. The belief around the National Football League is that when Jordan Love reaches a new agreement with the Packers, it's going to be one of the richest in NFL history. And my question is, based on what? That's to me what is wrong, Ryan, with the NFL. You're paying a guy who played well in the second half of the season, played well in the playoff game at Dallas.
Yeah.
But that warrants a contract that could be the largest in NFL history. I don't understand that.
Well, and you can't use the excuse of built in for inflation the way that these contracts works. A lot of them are front loaded. That being said, Grant, it's the way of the league, just like the running back market, what we saw a couple years ago. It's like, hey, we're not going to pay running backs anymore, but vice versa with quarterbacks. The New York Giants were just in a similar situation with Daniel Jones. If you don't pay him, where else are you turning? But I look at the top.
You can lose just as easily with a quarterback that is making 1/3 of the money.
Certainly. It's a solid point, but you look at the top, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrows, the guys that are making the most money in the NFL, the top 5. I don't think of Jordan Love anywhere near that.
No, not yet.
No.
But that's what they're paying him on. So, hey, welcome, Carl from the Philippines. A late morning from Manila, a monsoon rain for the past days. I'll tell you, the monsoons in Southeast Asia and the Pacific Rim and the typhoons up north, it's that time of year. There's no question about that. We wish you safe passage through these rainy seasons. The Philippines always seems to get hit harder than any other country on the globe when it comes to monsoons and typhoons. So, you're entering that stage. Good luck there, Carl.
Yeah, stay safe, Carl. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. It's open forum, so you can talk about whatever you want. Listen, do I think Jordan Love's a good quarterback? Yeah, I thought he played well last year.
Sure.
Did I look at Jordan Love and go, they have a replacement for Aaron Rodgers? I'm not ready to go that far, but I thought he played well. But that means $50 million a year. I mean, again, that's what's wrong with the NFL. All right. Did you see the story with the NBA and TNT? The NBA saying that TNT is not going to continue on with the NBA rights after next year. And TNT said, yeah, we matched the offer. And this thing is going to get very nasty and it's going to end up in a courtroom.
Yes, it is. The NBA, I don't know why they're biting the hand that somewhat feeds them with TNT, because they've been such a great long-term partner and given them so much additional programming through inside the NBA. But you're right, court is where it's heading. You're going to divide a fan base at some point, and Amazon better have a damn good product, Grant, compared to what TNT offered.
Yeah, the landscape of watching sports is changing right in front of us, and it's going to change somewhat in the NBA as well. It's just part of the evolution of big money, television, and technology, really. Technology is enabling these types of agreements to be made.
Yep, certainly. And Amazon has a lot of plans. You know about NBC, their plans that they have to launch with Sunday Night Basketball. But to you, what is the NBA's rush to get into bed with Amazon? Is it the new platform going more digital? What do you think it is?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know. I really don't.
It's going to be expensive if they get dragged out to court,
When I look at the structure of sports television,
Yeah.
and the continuing change. Look at Major League Baseball now. There are some games that, you can't get on your regional sports networks, and you can't even find them, and then you got to pay for it. Look at what happened in the playoff game last year in the NFL, right?
Yep.
With the Chiefs and whoever
Paywall.
else, right? So, yeah, it was on Peacock,
Yep. And
right?
it was on Peacock. First time ever a playoff game was on a paywall like that. Correct.
Yeah. So it's part of the times that we live in, and they are a changing. It won't happen in my lifetime, I don't believe. It may happen in your lifetime, where you might have to pay to watch the Super Bowl one year.
Interesting. Yeah, I think you're probably headed that way, and people will pay. Look at what X has done and what they plan to do with programming and even streaming. You have to have a subscription. People are doing that. They may go to a subscription model as well. So, really interesting.
Somebody said, Alberto said, most of us have Amazon Prime. So in a way, this benefits me, as I no longer need to pay for cable TV, but I will miss TNT broadcast quality and production. I get that. I understand that completely. I get it.
Yep, it's moving digital. Digital
Yep.
indeed. And as James Dolan, you talked about the article James Dolan, or the letter he wrote just about the regional sport networks. That's going to get messy, especially for smaller markets. Think about if you can't get your Kings games every single game.
It's going to impact everything. There's no question about that. Again, we would love to have you call the show. You got the QR code. You've got the link in the chat line. So we're happy to have you. Just give us a shout, and we can talk about whatever you want.
Yep, definitely. We're going to kick it off with a guy that shook things up a little bit last night and dressed up tonight. Gammon, what's up?
Yeah, my bomb saw me on YouTube, and so I had to kind of clean up my appearance. I saw Grant with a collared shirt on, so I figured I need to follow suit there as well. I did have a question for you specifically, Grant. You came through a lot of genres, especially when we're talking about communicating, broadcasting sports, right?
Yep.
And you're looking at some of the struggles that Disney, more specifically ESPN, is going through, and this kind of relates a little bit to TNT, but I really feel like you have a very, what do you want to say? You're very much on the pulse, in touch with this, because you've seen it in all different forms. How much has platforms like what you're doing right now, right?
Yep.
On YouTube, just grabbing a mic, making
Yep.
your own channel, talking about, how much does that take away revenue from places like ESPN? Because I'll say this, and I'm sure I'm not the only soldier or former soldier that's here, but like what you were saying, Ryan, there's going to be a time where you're not able to get your regular Kings games just because you live in Sacramento. I'm stationed in Fort Campbell, and I can't watch them, so I depend on you guys. So I would say, Grant, how much is something like what's going on here cutting away from the dividends from
Huge. It's huge. Talk radio will be obsolete, I think, by the end of this decade. This format and what we're doing, and thousands of others across not only the country but the globe, is killing talk radio. Satellite radio had a big impact on talk radio, and now this type of format is having a significant impact on talk radio. The Dan Patricks of the world, who decide to leave ESPN and start their own business on YouTube or whatever format they're on, has made a huge impact in our business, particularly sports. And that trend is not going to reverse itself anytime soon. It all goes back to ratings, right? And we talk about that. But to me, and I always said this when I was in radio, I didn't care about my ratings when I was on radio in Sacramento. When I say I didn't care about them, it wasn't my priority. My priority was, how much money was I making for the station? Because I could be completely sold out, but ratings are so, they don't make a lot of sense. Ratings now are, quite frankly, not good for talk radio. They're very good for music. Let me give you an example. let's say you all like listening to sports talk radio, right? And you are one of the people that have a meter, meaning that you are a extremely small percentage of what dictates the ratings in the market. You want to listen to Grant Napier on the radio. All right. You get in the car and let's say it's 4:00 and you're listening to me. And all of a sudden, you have to go home and your wife wants to go with you somewhere, but she doesn't like listening to sports talk radio. So you put on music or what have you, or you walk into a department store and as you're shopping, they have a music radio station on, which happens very often. Okay. Your meter, even though you're not listening and not a fan of that station, is picking up that as a recorded segment during the ratings. And there are many other examples of why the radio rating system was never good for my particular type of shows compared to when it was the old way, when it was a diary and you had to write in on the diary, you had to write in the book what you were listening to and blah, blah, blah. During that period of time, my radio show was either first, second, or third every single rating period. And it was normally one men 25 to 54. When they switched and went from the diary to the meters, I very rarely registered among the top ratings. It was all music stations for the most part. There are exceptions, but I'm giving you a generalization. Everything is changing right now. I always was concerned about revenue. Am I bringing in the revenue? Is my show bringing in the revenue to the radio station? And when they used to come to talk to me about ratings, I would say, I don't care about the ratings. I care about revenue. And so what is the world revolved around right now? The almighty dollar, right? It's the same way with Nike, how you can turn your head when it comes to the abuses of the sweatshops and everything else. You turn your head. Why? Because it's putting money in your pocket. I'm just using that as an example. There are many other companies. Why? And again, I'm getting off on a tangent here. Why is it that in June, all of our major countries put the pride colors on their social media platforms, but they don't do that worldwide? They don't do it in Saudi Arabia. They don't do it in the UAE. They don't do it in many other parts of the world. They don't have the pride colors on. Why? Because it would devastate them. It would annihilate them. They would lose billions of dollars. So everything that is done in a business sense, including TV ratings and TV contracts, this contract for the NBA is all about one thing. It's about money. It's about money. And if fewer people are able to reach the NBA owners are going to be just fine with that because they split the pie equally and they're going to be filthy rich. So that's where we're at. And I know I gave you a long-winded answer, but I'm trying to give you just an idea of what matters when it comes to everything. It's how much money are you making?
I'm really glad that you did. I know, you probably, and it's sad because not everybody wants to be informed, but you might have put half the listeners to sleep and then the other half who were either genuinely curious or thinking that question but never asked that question. Because for me, I'm kind of locked up in a stasis bubble, and every few years I come back to Sacramento. I notice things have changed. Went from Marco to Sleep Train to what it is now. Like it just every single time I come back, it feels like I'm a little bit further removed, and you guys are my contact from that. And you said a couple big things. I'm thinking of it in terms of eyeballs on something, and you said you were more looking at the different number I should have been focused on, right? And you brought the word business, where I was thinking of broadcasting eyeballs, and you're saying revenue. And just to kind of paint a general picture for some of us who do want to dig a little bit deeper in this, what is a platform like this? Because you said, hey, News Talk or Sports Talk 1140 is not something that you see they're going to be really struggling to kind of stay around. I know that you probably have a lot of friends on that side, right? You're not belittling, you're just talking about
the only reason why they are still in existence is because of the Kings. If they lose the Kings, they would completely change formats, and it would happen overnight. There would be no more sports talk, period. Guaranteed.
What do you think channels kind of like, I don't want to say like this, but since everyone's kind of loading up their podcast, right? Because there have been guys from the Bay Area who have their sports channels there on the AM side haven't been able to keep them employed So they've had to kind of turn to this.
That's right. Look at
That's
Damon
right.
Bruce. Look at
Yeah,
Larry
Larry
Krueger. Look at so many others. That's your 100. Look at FP Santangelo. I can go on and on and on. You're absolutely 100% correct.
How much has and I, forgive me if I'm naive and you guys have already explained this, but how much is these platforms here taking away from the revenue, right? What do you think
A lot. A lot.
What do you think the percentages you think?
I don't know what the percentage is, but I'll give you just a small example. When Ryan and I do post-game shows across both this platform and X, formerly Twitter, we have reached over 30,000 on a couple of occasions. That's 30,000 viewers that are not watching the local teams produced post-game shows and or radio shows. All right. That's a significant amount of people. And let's just say on some nights it's 15,000 instead of 30. That's a significant number in a market such as Sacramento. Significant. So, when you go to the larger markets, listen, Larry Krueger and Damon Bruce, they're killing it on their YouTube shows. They are definitely making an impact on listenership for the Bay Area sports stations. There's no question about that.
Absolutely. And I don't want to, I feel like I'm being a downer on the show and I'm making Grant kind of rant and go on there, but
no, it's part of where we're at. It's the evolution of sports programming, sports talk, everything. It's the world is changing every day from a technological viewpoint. And I guess the best way to summarize this, guys, you don't have to be employed by a broadcast entity, meaning CBS, ABC, NBC, ESPN, local broadcast companies. You don't need to have a job. All right. Ryan is his own boss. I'm my own boss. I don't get a paycheck every month from a radio corporation, right? We generate what we can generate based on our contacts, based on our downloads, based on sponsorships. So we are basically, for lack of a better term, Gammon, we are a one-man band, and that's going on all over the country now.
I'm gonna ask this last question, then just like yesterday, I'm gonna immediately hit that leave button. So I don't want to throw you guys off when I disappear from here.
All right.
But question for Grant, question for you, Ryan. Okay, because I'm sure there was a way when you got into this profession, it was a lot different back then than it is now. Grant, you guys get to be public speakers at a high school or at Sac State. And there's kids that are looking to get into this industry. They're going to college. They're taking these college courses. And you were to describe what skills, what it's going to take to be successful now versus how it was back then. For you guys, how would you do that? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gammon. Napes, I'm not qualified to answer that. I'm going to kick that to you.
Well, I talk to aspiring broadcast students like all the time, including yourself when you reached out to me. And I tell everyone the same thing. Don't limit yourself to one category or one sport. Be well-rounded. And I also teach people how to ad lib. I don't teach them, I tell them. Get some bullet points and sit in your room and practice making a story out of those bullet points. What we do here on YouTube, Ryan doesn't have anything written down in front of him other than maybe some stats if he's going to read some, particular numbers just like I would, but everything is off the cuff. I didn't know what Gammon was going to ask us today. I didn't know he was going to ask us what our favorite, genre of music was or our playlist or,
who was the hottie when we were kids. I mean,
exactly. You can't go, well, gee, I gotta write all this down. No, you just make it up and go along. I've always done that, and I think it's been my biggest advantage. Listen, there's always going to be a need for good broadcasters. There's always going to be a need for play-by-play men and women. There's always going to be a need for that. Games will always be announced by human beings. They've always been announced by human beings, going back from Red Barber and Vince Scully and Mel Allen and all the way up to the present. So I would always tell people, yes, follow your dreams, but make sure you don't limit yourself to just one sport. You must be well-rounded. I always wanted to be a hockey announcer, and I was blessed to announce a lot of hockey in college, but that opportunity did not present itself when I moved to Sacramento. the Kings presented itself. I had also done a lot of basketball, but it wasn't really my dream, but it ended up being a 32-year career. Had it been football, I would have made my career football. If it had been, baseball, even though it's not a love of mine to announce baseball, I would have done it, and I would have, in my opinion, been good at it. So you can't limit yourself. Listen, you had lunch with Nico, the Syracuse student from El Dorado Hills recently, right?
Yeah.
Well, I told Nico the same thing, and I'm so proud of Nico because he's announcing everything at Syracuse. He's now developed into a good hockey announcer. He's done basketball. He's done women's sports. He's done obscure sports. He was up at the celebrity tournament putting videos and interviews of almost every athlete that was at the celebrity golf tournament last week on his TikTok, right? And everything else. So, he's doing it, and he's probably the best example of anyone that comes to recent memory. He's doing exactly what he needs to be doing, and he will get a job, and he will be very successful in this for his entire life. I can't tell you whether it's going to be hockey or interviewing or, right now he's doing an internship for NBC Sports. He is in Sanford, Connecticut, working the Olympics, doing whatever he's doing for the next 3 weeks. That's a guy that's going to make it. That's a guy that has perseverance. That's a guy that is dedicated. That's a guy that is going to choose what his career is going to be and following his dreams, but he's doing it based on actions.
Yes.
All right. I would hire Nico in a heartbeat coming out of college if I was a broadcast entity, in a heartbeat, because I already have seen his work ethic. He will have a resume tape that will knock people off their seats, and his work ethic alone makes him hireable for someone like me.
Well said. And to your point about Nico, he is at the best school in the country, arguably, for broadcasting, but he also wants to learn this side of it too. He's trying to learn a little bit of everything, kind of how you laid out, and that's what's making him valuable. He could rest on that. He's not. He's hungry. That's a big part of it.
Yeah, Syracuse has given him a good platform, but for those that might be an aspiring broadcaster, you don't have to go to Syracuse. There are many other, programs that you can go to, or you can just do it on your own, which is what many people are choosing to do now. There's one thing I would say to Gammon and anyone else, and I've told you this, Ryan, there is you need to do A, B, C, D, and E, and you're going to make it. That's not how this profession works. There is no A, B, C, D, and E. I've always said this. I could get 50 network announcers in a round table right now. All right. And I could go to each and every one of them and ask them how they got started and what advice they would give us. The advice might be somewhat similar, but how they got started would be 50 different stories.
No doubt. Very well said, Grant.
It's like, Ryan, you're a lawyer. It's not like, well, go to law school, pass your bar, and you're an attorney. That's not how it works. It's not like, well, I want to be a doctor. Well, you have to go to 4-year undergrad, then you have to go to medical school, then you have to do a residency. That's not how it works in this profession.
No, it's completely the opposite. It's getting your hands dirty, getting in there, like you said, the bullet points, talking in the shower. My wife thought I was crazy for 2 years, but it's getting the real-time experience, getting the time with the red light on, and you just got to do it. That's the biggest hurdle a lot of times, Grant, doing it.
Gammon has a response, a hockey announcer, LOL, what? I announced hockey in college at a prestigious hockey program at Bowling Green, who went on and won the national championship. Many of their players went on and played in the NHL. And I also was blessed to do the San Jose Sharks, filling in for Randy Hahn 1 year. So I've done hockey. And listen, I would drop everything that I'm doing right now, okay? And I would move to wherever it would be. It wouldn't matter to me if I could get a hockey job.
Yeah, that wasn't the only thing that you did at Bowling Green, Napes. Ironically, since it is Open Forum Wednesday, I figured I'd bring a little something to it. And, got me inspired. So here we go. Look at this. This is the 1979 Bowling Green lacrosse team with yours, Grant Napier.
Look at that hair, man. Yeah. Look at you. Look at you.
Look at this.
Yep. Wow. Now I really, really feel old.
Oh, there's more.
Yeah. After I left, they dropped the lacrosse program.
Bringing back some memories.
Yep. Yep. You know what is interesting? When I was recruited for lacrosse, wow.
Oh, there's more. There's some pictures of you. Wait till you see this picture coming up, Napes. It's good stuff. They got
Man,
all the.
Wow. You're amazing, man.
We're not done yet. We are just getting started. And then we did a little bit of more research, Napes, and check this out. This is going to take us to April 17th, 1979. April 17th, 1979. See if I can get this up really quick. Here we
Wow,
go.
I'm really impressed.
Check this out. The Bowling Green Lacrossers defeat Kenyon handily. Bowling Green held a 6-3 halftime lead and extended the margin to 10-6 over 3 periods before taking charge. Falcons scoring was led by Grant Napier with 5 goals. How about that, my friend? Look at this newspaper. Does this bring back some memories?
Wow. You know what? You're blowing me away, dude.
Check this out, Grant. This was your student newspaper, I believe.
You're unbelievable, man.
April 17th, 1979. The Bowling Green News.
Wow.
So, little throwback Wednesday for you, buddy.
Wow. You know, I'm speechless. I don't even know what to say, man. You just blew me away right there. Wow.
It was so fun to look back at those and see some of the memories. There's a picture of you on the roster and you got your big poofy hair going. It was awesome stuff.
I know in my freshman year, I had 5 goals at Ohio State. That's the story where we played at the football, the horseshoe. And I remember walking onto the field when we first got there, and I was going to warm up, and the spring game had just been played. And Art Schlichter, if you don't know who Art Schlichter is, you can look him up, but he was a standout great quarterback for Ohio State and then went into the NFL and basically threw his career away based on gambling and alcohol and ended up being incarcerated. And I remember walking right by Art Schlichter. I can still vividly remember it today in his number 10 Buckeye jersey, standing in the end zone with all these kids around him as he was signing autographs. And I remember walking on to the field, and there were still a lot of people in the stadium because the spring game had just ended. And I was just like, wow, wow. And I had 5. That was my first time playing Ohio State, and I had 5 goals that game, and I was so happy. And then we get into the locker room, and someone had broken into the team locker room and stolen all of our personal belongings, including a watch that my dad had gotten to me for a high school graduation.
Oh, man, that is awful. That's not the way you want to remember the big, the horseshoe. Come on.
No, I mean, I had a great game there. I mean, again, I had 5 goals and we won, and it was an incredible memory for me. But I also remember the just how awful it was, the feeling we all had when we walked into the locker room.
That's terrible.
Anyway, I'm blown away that you put all that together, man. Blown away.
Yeah, well, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope the audience enjoyed it. We'll post it on X so you can go back and check that out as well.
Thank you, buddy.
You're welcome, bud.
Who else do we have on the phones?
We've got Jay. What's up, Jay?
Hey, what's going on? Sorry about that. My puppy's going crazy over there.
No problem, buddy.
I had a quick question about radio, but first, that's really cool that you were able to pull up the nostalgia of the college days, the good old days.
Man, am I old? Wow.
that was really cool.
Still looking good.
Yeah. Are you guys familiar with Sacramento radio hosts throughout the 2010s era? Are you guys familiar with any of the guys that were on the radio?
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Sugar Bear on Air?
No.
Okay. Well, he used to do Sacramento down here, or Sacramento. He used to do radio down here in Sacramento for 10 years. He was more on the music side, not the sports or that kind of side. But he's my mom's boyfriend, so that's pretty cool. So I know like the insides of like the passion of radio hosting and being a radio personality. And to your credit, it is kind of sad to say, but by like 2030, it's kind of like a dying profession in a way with all the tech that's, going around, the podcasting, the YouTube videos, the TikToks, and all that kind of stuff. Um, so yeah, that's definitely sad to see. But on the good note, it looks like you guys are pivoting, from being on the radio and stuff like that. And you guys are having your own platform, like you guys said, your one man show, right? One man army, and you're rolling with the time. So
Well, it's nice. We are our own boss. We work when we want. We put content out when we want. We're responsible for everything. And that's why I've been so blessed. And I pointed out repeatedly of the people that have helped me, where, maybe doing an open for the show, making my graphics, doing things that I don't know how to do. I've had a lot of people reach out and do it for free. Our website, right? I mean,
really, that's
think
cool.
about all the help that we've had, Ryan, putting the shop on for merch, which we will unveil a whole new set of merchandise in the fall. But, I don't know how to do that stuff.
That's really cool.
I would say really quick, Jay, the thing that I would say about this is, one, your traditional radio stations now, they're trying to pivot to get into this as well, because for what we do, I'd say it's building a community as well, because all of you get to interact in a different way rather than just interacting with the host, calling in with Grant. You have the chat, we can bring you up. And it's just the way of the future. And you're not, Grant, you could speak to this, you're not bound by the different rules with your producers, by radio. You are bound to do whatever you want to do and whatever you're comfortable airing.
Exactly. And it's if you can make it, and I say if, because there are a lot of people that are doing this that aren't making any money at all, and it's short-lived. But there are also a lot of other people that are able to do this. I'll give you another example. Tom Brenneman. I'm sure you all know what happened to Tom when he was calling a Cincinnati Reds game, and was subsequently fired as the longtime TV announcer of the Reds. His dad was a legendary announcer for decades, and Marty Brenneman. And Tom also was part of the NFL on Fox. He was one of their announcers and was doing NFL football every Sunday, and Fox let him go. And I've stayed in touch with Tom. Tom was actually on my podcast, and it was phenomenal to have him on. I just reached out to Tom the other day. He finally got a job doing college football, and his first game will be Oregon State against I can't even remember. But Tom branched out, and Tom has his own YouTube channel in Cincinnati, and he's done very well with it. He does it every day, and he's been very happy doing it. So, yeah, there's now, I guess the best way to say this, guys, if you lose your job now, there are other options, whereas in the past, there were no other options other than getting a job at another station.
What happened to Tom?
What do you mean, what happened to him?
Or what like you said
he was caught using a homophobic slur on a hot mic during a Cincinnati Reds game. And if you Google him, Tom, Thom, Brenneman, you can go look at the video and his apology on air, which I thought was extremely sincere and heartfelt. Yeah. And I talked to Tom about this. It's very, I'll tell you, I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but here's the thing that I have the biggest problem with in America. One of the biggest problems. So I was told by a major PR firm, the leading PR firm in America, for dealing with a quote unquote crisis of this magnitude. And they said, don't apologize. Excuse me? Don't apologize, because your apology will be viewed as more critical than what you did. And if you go back, when we're done, Jay, I want you to do me a favor, okay? Mm-hmm. When you get done, I want you to go to YouTube, and I want you to Google Tom, or put in Tom Brenneman, Thom Brenneman, Brennaman. And I want you to watch his apology on TV in Cincinnati. I thought his apology was incredibly sincere, heartfelt. He got destroyed for his apology. And I think it's a real shame that in America, we do not, and when I say we do not, I'm generalizing, we do not accept apologies. I have yet to meet a perfect person and I'm 65, but I still have never met someone that's perfect. All right. We all make mistakes. We all do things that we need to apologize for. As long as you don't keep making the same mistake over and over again, I will accept your apology if I feel it is sincere. Okay. I don't know why in this country, we as a society are so against people that maybe step over the line or do something wrong, apologize, and we don't accept their apology. Like, I don't understand that. And I think it's a real shame. And Tom Brenneman, to me, I accepted his apology. I thought it was heartfelt, and he got destroyed for that. And I asked him about that on my podcast, and he shared my sentiment.
I would say the other side of that, why people are not sometimes accepting apologies in America, is because it's become routine. You got to get your pound of flesh to go along with the apology, as opposed to just accepting it.
Listen,
Yeah, I would agree.
There are people's apologies that I've looked at, and I'm like, that's hollow.
Mhm.
If it's the same thing doing over and over again, then I'm sorry. Words are cheap. Actions speak louder than words. So for the people that maybe, I'll use an example.
Yes, Grant.
Someone
Words
gets
are cheap.
Someone gets 3 or 4 DUIs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they are apologizing on their 3rd and 4th DUIs. I'm sorry, I'm never going to. No, that doesn't mean anything to me. That
Sure.
apology is hollow, and I'm not accepting that apology because at that point, actions speak louder than words. Okay. So there are times when I will not accept an apology because to me it's just words. So Tom Brenneman not only apologized, he backed everything up with actions in Cincinnati. And I just reached out to him the other day to congratulate him on getting back on the horse. And he'll do great because he's a great person. And I just wish in America people were more accepting of apologies. But anyway, back to this big PR firm. They said don't apologize. Well, I can't live my life that way. Ryan knows this. If I make a mistake broadcasting, if I get a fact wrong, or I'll come on and go, hey, I got that wrong. I'm really sorry.
Yep.
That's not the end of the world. But Ryan listened to my show. I never had a problem with apologizing. I used to apologize on Kings telecast if I got it wrong. I got something wrong in New York against the Knicks one day, and I got a call from the NBA chief officer before I took off from Newark Airport because I got a call wrong at the end of the game, and I criticized Dan Crawford, one of the best officials in the league, and we ended up the game. We went to commercial break. My producer showed us the replay, and I'm like, oh, man, I got it wrong. I thought they were calling an illegal screen on Corliss Williamson. He didn't. No, they called an illegal screen because he set the screen out of bounds, which is illegal. So I came back on TV, and I apologized. I said, hey, before we go on, I need to apologize. I was wrong. I got the call wrong. I'm sorry. And I'm sorry to Dan Crawford because he was right and I was wrong. But the NBA didn't see that because the league pass feed stops once you go to your commercial after the game. So I said to Tim, I go, hey, Tim, I know you didn't see this, but I went on the air and apologized after the game. And I said I was wrong. So anyway, fast forward a couple weeks later, I'm doing a game and I see Dan Crawford is one of our officials. He's the crew chief. And I walk up to Dan at center court before the game. I go, Dan, I owe you an apology. He goes, what for? I go, hey, I got a call wrong when you were in New York. Remember he goes, yeah. I said, well, I was pretty hard on you and I realized I was wrong. And I said, I want to let you know I came on TV on the post game and I apologized. And I said, you were right and I was wrong. And he said to me, he goes, Grant, he goes, I really appreciate you coming up to me, but you're all good with me. You've always been good with me and you're good with all of the officials in the league. And you don't have to apologize to me. I said, yes, I do. I wanted to look you in the eye and tell you I was wrong. He goes, hey, that means the world to me, but you're all good with me. So like, why is that so hard? Listen, I got to tell you, I'm very close with a lot of baseball umpires. I don't know if you ever watch like TikTok or baseball umpires are getting destroyed by announcers across the country because of the box they put on. That box is not an accurate depiction of a ball and a strike. So if you see the ball outside the superimposed box on your screen, you think the umpire got it wrong. Well, there are times they do get it wrong, but they have been getting destroyed by announcers. And my buddy told me that only one announcer has walked into their umpire's locker room and apologized to them for getting it wrong. None of the other announcers do. And I think, that's chicken shit. If you're going to call out an umpire who, by the way, is working for the bottom line of your product, like announcers, coaches, players, officials, we're all in it together. When you think about the big picture, we're all trying to advance the league to be better, right?
So true.
And the only way that happens is by everyone working together. Yeah, you can have criticism. Yes, you can acknowledge mistakes. Yes, you can acknowledge that there was a bad call. But when you go over the line and make it personal, or you go on and on like so many announcers do, you're really hurting the product, okay? And you're putting a bad thought in the viewers' heads that everything is not on the up and up by belaboring this over and over again. And I learned as I went on in my career, that's not the way to do it. Yeah, if an official makes a bad call, acknowledge they made a bad call and move on. I've made bad calls before in play-by-play. I've made mistakes before where I misidentify a player. We all make mistakes. So, I know I gave you a long-winded answer there, but I think that's important to point out.
Yeah, no, like you said, the apology, it says something about who you are and to your who your character is, what you're made of. So in your case, when you apologize to the referee, just the way that you were able to remember the situation and verbatim pretty much, and the way that you expressed your sincerity to him shows that you were genuine about your apology. Like to Ryno's point, there's a lot of people that it's hollow, or they're apologizing to public because they have to, not because they want to. Or better yet, there's people typing up their apologies for them, like doing that job for them and just saying, hey, post this because we have to. Or whether it's money motivated, whether it's image motivated, whatever it is. But a lot of the times, because social media is such an instant gratification type of platform, you see oversaturated apologies because people are so quick to react to things. And so that's why the apologies don't seem as sincere as they once were, or they should be.
Officials watch the games. And I got to tell you, one of the great, and I don't normally talk about this, one of the things that made me feel the best about my work is how often an official would come up to me and go, hey, I just want to say thank you for the way you call the games and how fair you are to us. And they go, hey, when we make a mistake, you call it. And when we get it right, you call it. And when you get it wrong and we're right, you acknowledge it. And we really appreciate that. And I'm talking about the top, Zach Zarba, Josh Tiven, the Kenny Mowers, the Scott Fosters, the Kevin Cutlers, Bill Kennedy, all these, they would come up to me all the time and thank me for the way I handled the officials on the air. And that meant a lot to me because it meant that I was being a professional. All right.
I didn't know that.
I was being fair and objective, and that the officials acknowledged that. They said the same thing to Jerry too. Listen, do you know how often Jerry and I would say, Kings fans aren't going to be happy, but that's the right call.
Yeah. Remember that distinctly.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. It does. I never understood. Well, I never knew that side of the business, how close the commentators were to the referees and stuff like that. But I guess it makes sense if you're having like a team of referees kind of cycle out the home games, a crew, different crew. That
Gammon ask, and thanks for the donation on the super chat. What is your biggest on-air gaffe? As far as the biggest one, I'd have to really think about that. There's not a broadcaster walking the planet that hasn't made a mistake on the air. So I'd have to really think about that and maybe get back to you on a different show. Right off the top of my head, there's not one that comes to mind, but I would always say this. I always knew when I didn't have an A game, and it used to drive me crazy and I couldn't wait until my next game. You may not have known that, but I knew it. And that used to just drive me crazy. It used to drive me crazy. And it didn't matter what the reason was. It could have been 4 games in 5 nights. It could have been all night travel. It could have been I got home from a long road trip and, my kids were sick and I was helping out my wife with the kids and didn't really matter. It didn't matter what the reason was. I knew it, and I could not wait to get back in front of the mic again on the next game to hit a home run. So there are times when you don't, but the biggest on-air gaffe, I don't ever remember a time of being like embarrassed on the air, but I'd have to go back and think.
Something you said struck me about how you said you're all in it together, right? And then the story came to mind about you pulling DeMarcus aside and saying, hey, you know, you need to be more genuine. Apologize this way. Make sure the city, you know, feels it in this manner. And he did. And when we talk about announcers today, Grant and Jay, do you think that some announcers don't have that same perception, especially the baseball announcers, that you're all
100%
together?
I'm gonna hop out because my puppy's gonna go crazy.
Okay, take care, buddy.
No worries. Thanks, Jay.
You know, I'm gonna thank you, Joe. I'm gonna get to that question in a moment. All right. I'm going to answer that in a moment, but I want to also talk to you about New Works Plumbing for your plumbing needs and repairs. They've got a fix for you. They're available around the clock 24/7. Just go to saxserviceplumbing.com or call the number on your screen. New Works Plumbing, they've got a fix for you. Also, Bennett's, Sacramento, Roseville, the West Side Grill in Rockland, Prime Seafood and Steak. Don't forget about their happy hour, Sips and Taste, every day from 2 to 6. You'll love it. The prices on the wine, outstanding, really good share plates. Just go to bennettsrestaurants.com, make a reservation and more. That's bennettsrestaurants.com. I think the answer to that question is yes. And I think baseball announcers, based on the clips that I see on a daily basis on social media, are the worst when it comes to baseball umpires.
Interesting. Just why do you think that is? Is it a younger generation, older generation? Is it always been that way?
I think a lot of announcers can hide from the umpires because they don't have to see them. Basketball announcers stand on the court before the game with the officials. And if you're being really hard on an official, they might come up and let you know, although they probably wouldn't. But I think that we also had meetings annually in New York, and one of the days we spent with the officials, and we got to know them on a personal level, and I think that really helped. They don't do that in Major League Baseball.
Interesting. Yeah, they take their time out of their schedule to come spend the day with you, educate you on the points of emphasis and such.
And it's a big help, and you get to know them. You get to talk to them on a different level. You know, I remember Scott Foster had just come off his first NBA finals, and we were doing a quiz and everything, and he was sitting literally right in front of me, and I had just said hi to him, but we got up for a break and we went out into the hallway at the conference room or wherever we were, and I said, hey, Scott, man, I'm really happy for you. Congratulations on working the finals this past year, man. I'm really proud for you. And he said, hey, thanks, man. I appreciate that. He goes, how are you doing? How's your summer going? And he goes, you doing anything special? And, you know, we started talking about stuff that had nothing to do with basketball. You know, like I know that Zach Zarba and I are tight. Josh Tiven, they're both worked NBA finals this year. We text back and forth on a regular basis. They are pulling for me. They're big fans of mine. I'm big fans of them. You know, there are many other officials that I have contact with, and I miss that part of it. And I tell them, like, if I see them working on a crew with other refs that I like, but I don't have their contact, I go, hey, make sure you tell Kevin I said hi. Make sure you tell Scott I said hi. Make sure, you know what I mean? Like, so, you know, we were all really one family, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that. It could have been really easy to not go back into that area, stay in touch with those people, but you had. And I mean,
they also tell me, by the way, and I'll let you finish. They also tell me announcers in the league they are not fans of because they think that they are ridiculously bad at what they do in terms of not knowing the rules of the game, and they give the wrong information out over the air, and that bothers them. But go ahead.
I would imagine. Yeah. Officials, even at the G League level this last season that I spent down in Stockton, that was one of my favorite things to do. Talk to the officials about plays, rules, things, and you get to know them. It does make a little bit of a difference, and they appreciate the conversation.
They appreciate it. And again, if you think that officials make bad calls and it doesn't eat at them, you don't know what you're talking about. All right. When an official makes a call that affects the outcome of a game, it affects their life. It affects their mood. It affects everything. Okay. And if you don't think so, then you're not dealing with reality. They don't just like get in the shower and go home and go, oh, gee, it doesn't matter. No, it eats at them. They want to be great at what they do, just like you want to be good at what you do at your job or great or what have you. They're the same way. It's not like they don't care about what they're doing. That's been a big misnomer in our sports society.
Yeah, it's been a misnomer for a long time. I mean, the amount of hate that they get alone, regardless of how they're feeling about the blown call, and especially with the gambling aspect of it these days, it's crazy. Social media has changed the game for them. Probably good why they aren't on there.
Yeah. So good stuff. It's really interesting to talk about these different things on an open forum show. I really enjoy doing this. I really do. I also enjoy talking about our sponsors and Sunrise Landing. And if you go to CalusaSunrise.com, you can check out everything from Blazona Development. This is the newest residential community in Calusa. 6 miles to choose from, no Melrose, no homeowners, right across the street from the Calusa Golf and Country Club. So, it's a great location, easy access, to the major arteries, I-5, Highway 45, Highway 20. It's Sunrise Landing. And again, go to CalusaSunrise.com. That is CalusaSunrise.com. And you can check it out for yourself. Once again, Sunrise Landing in Calusa.
Go check it out. That golf course always looks so nice to me.
I know
it's
it
got to
does.
be a grade 18.
Yeah.
So I wasn't done. I have to admit, I had a little bit more fun earlier today since I didn't do my show. I had to look up the Bowling Green stuff, but I also found this, seeing that football season is coming around. I did not know about this, and I know you'll remember this name. Your dad, Grant, the New York Post.
Yep.
Bert Napier, he was a finalist for Giants Superfan.
Yes.
And what you have always told me, and the name you forgot on that one show, Mel Hunt, that is why he chose the college that he went to.
That's right.
Incredible. That's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, the New York Post had a contest, and he got down to the final 5, and it was like unbelievable. My dad went to every single. I tell the story. My dad was at the Polo Grounds on December 7th, 1941. He was at the Polo Grounds watching the New York Giants play the Brooklyn Dodgers. Yes, the Brooklyn Dodgers were a football team. A lot of people don't know that. He was at the Polo Grounds on December 7th, 1941, as a 15-year-old boy watching the Giants play football. And then 3 years later, he was in World War II in the Pacific Theater and in the Navy. And he went to every game. And he talked about that when he used to come on my radio show the Friday before Father's Day. He would reflect back on all the memories and all of the great stars of that era. And that, for 10 cents, he could get in to go to watch the Giants play, or, for 15 cents, watch the Yankees, or go to Madison Square Garden and see a quadruple header because there were 4 games going on, and you could get in for 50 cents and watch all 4 games. And, he talked about some of the great players of yesteryear that he idolized and watched growing up at, whether it was Ebbets Field, the Polo Grounds, Yankee Stadium, Madison Square Garden. I mean, you got to remember, when my dad was growing up, you had the Dodgers, the Giants, and the Yankees.
Wow. Yeah. And it was a polarizing time too, Grant, in sports and in the world. Boy. I mean, he did a lot in the civil rights era, and seeing that change throughout sports as well must have been a huge thing for him as well.
My dad was a huge civil rights activist, and it wasn't words, it was actions. My dad let his actions do his speaking more so than words.
No doubt. No doubt. Love the Russo story, by the way. Pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah, thank you.
We bring Alex in tonight. How you doing tonight, Alex?
Hey, guys. How you doing? Grant, Ryno. How's your guys' night?
Good. Thank you for calling, Alex.
Excellent.
Yeah, definitely. So just real quick, if you guys talked about it, forgive me. I just popped in right now. But do you hear about the Cam Johnson report today? If so, would you like the move, and who would you be comfortable giving up for that move?
I don't know much about it.
Okay.
I don't pay attention to rumors and until it's done. So I don't know, Ryan, you have any thoughts?
I'm not in love with it, with the way this roster's made up right now. I think if they're going to focus anywhere, they've got to focus at that forward center place. I know that we signed Orlando Robinson today to a
Yes.
1-year contract, balled out in the G League, by the way, averaged
Yeah.
24 plus points. And here's what I loved about him. He had 11.6 rebounds, but 5.4 offensive rebounds a game. So that, or 5.1, excuse me, offensive rebounds. So we'll see if he has any impact. I mean, Cam Johnson's a good player. I think Kevin Huerter is the piece that you're willing to depart with, especially with the pay. That's how it would have to make sense. But it seems like the Kings are pretty content of using Kevin possibly in that second unit.
Yeah, I know. I think I told you before. I only see him getting run for the most part if they use him at the 3, even though that might not be his natural position. Just because in the 1-2 spot, I see a carousel of Fox, Monk, DeRozan, and Ellis. Even though DeRozan will play a little bit of 3, so just with that, I don't see Kevin getting a whole bunch of run unless he starts or something to kind of get the juices flowing.
I think Kevin's going to get pushed a little bit more towards that 3 position more than anything, depending on what they do with Keon Ellis. Kevin has a length, 6'7". He's not a terrible defender, depending on who you have on the court with him. So I think that with DeMar DeRozan, the looks that he opens up now, he gives you 2 legitimate DHO options that the Kings did not have before, and it brings the burn down on Fox with the ball. So that opens up things for guys like Kevin Huerter, guys like Keegan Murray.
Okay. And then last question. Maybe I'm crazy, but should I be crazy taking the over on my Las Vegas Raiders? They have them at 6.5. I already did it. I said yes. So is that crazy to say?
I don't see it, but no, it's not crazy. It's the NFL. They play in a very difficult division.
Yeah.
First and foremost, I think 6 is probably going to be their number, or 5.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Hopefully I didn't make a bad decision. You guys have a great rest of your night.
Thank you. Appreciate it,
Alex. Thank you.
So if I say they're going to win 6 or less, that means you just won your bet. They'll win more than 6.5 and you'll be fine.
Bingo. Minshew magic. You think Devontae Adams is going to be a Raider by the end of the season?
Yes, I do.
Okay. They've got to do something to shore up that quarterback position.
Yeah,
long term.
I know.
That's what they've been missing.
Hey, listen, man, thank you for doing a little research and bringing back a little nostalgia for me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I enjoyed that.
Very well. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Hope the viewers enjoyed it. Cool times seeing you play with Cross. Those boys were big names.
Oh boy,
some big guys out there.
Yeah, I still got some wounds from those years, but it was all worth it. All right, thanks everyone for joining us. Take care and stay safe. We'll